Hello, everyone. We're just getting everybody joined in. So we'll wait here for a minute or so and let everybody get connected, and all cozy and set up to get started for our presentations tonight. Still see a few people getting connected and hopping on, but we're so glad you're all able to join us tonight for our Food as Medicine series. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome again, everybody. This is Food as Medicine, a three-part community series focused on preventing type 2 diabetes and living well with diabetes through nutrition, cooking, and physical activity. Glad you're able to join us for our third and final session in this series focused on movement as medicine. My name is Rebecca Wilson, and I'm an employee at Comagine Health, where we work to improve health and create a better healthcare system so that people and communities will flourish. Tonight's event is made possible through the partnership and support of Get Healthy Utah, the Utah Diabetes Coalition, the Steering Committee for the Prevention of Diabetes, and Comagine Health. And the presentations you'll hear this evening are brought to you by the State Department of Health Healthy Aging Program, Tooele County Health Department, and Utah State University Extension. But before we get going, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items so you'll know how to participate and have the best experience possible. You can listen to this webinar using your computer speakers or call in by the phone. You've probably figured that by now. And using your computer speakers or headset is recommended for the best quality. At the bottom of your screen, you should see three buttons. To the far left is audio settings. And in the middle, you'll see the Q&A. If you click the audio settings, it'll bring up the audio preferences for the webinar. You can send a test sound check to your speakers and microphone, but be sure your computer's volume is turned up. And while hearing from today's presenters, your microphone will remain muted. After the presentations are over, we'll move into a time of Q&A. However, at any point during the webinar, you can submit questions in that Q&A box. To do that, click the Q&A button and a window will appear where you can submit your question. You can submit them anonymously or to the whole group, and you can keep the window open to view the questions from other participants as well. If you see that somebody's already submitted a similar question and you like it and you want to vote on it, you just click the thumbs up button, and that way we can focus on the most popular questions first. There are a lot of people joining us tonight, and I am sure there will be lots of great questions. We'll send a follow-up email with responses to some of the questions we're not able to cover during the time we have. If you're having any technical difficulties, we have moderators who can help you via the Q&A box. Today's webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be posted on the Comagine Health YouTube channel. We'll send the link and the slides in a follow-up email, which will be sent out approximately 2 weeks after the event. Okay, now that we've covered the housekeeping items, I'd like to share a little bit more about our series and tonight's event. The purpose of this three-part series is to bring awareness to prediabetes and diabetes. In each session, we share a principle of healthy living, an introduction to an evidence-based lifestyle program, and we have a live cooking demonstration. Through those presentations, we aim to share what can be done to lower the risk of developing type 2 diabetes and other chronic diseases, as well as share tips for living well with diabetes and to have a little fun. So for tonight's session, session 3 of our series, Sydney Williams will talk about movement as medicine. Sydney is a recent graduate from the University of South Carolina and a 2021 CDC Public Health Associate Program Fellow. And she's been placed on the Healthy Aging Program at the Utah Department of Health. There she serves as a health program specialist too, where she contributes to the quality improvement and reach of evidence-based programs to Utah residents living with arthritis and other chronic conditions. Then Mele Lokotui will tell us about a lifestyle change program called Walk with Ease. Mele works for Tooele County Health Department on their health promotion team as a health educator. She received her bachelor's in public health from Brigham Young University, Idaho. She's also a lifestyle coach for the National Diabetes Prevention Program. After those presentations, we'll have a live cooking demonstration by Dr. April Litchford and Dr. Carrie Durward. April is an assistant professor for Utah State University Extension in Box Elder County. She's also a registered dietitian nutritionist with a PhD in nutrition science. She has expertise in general nutrition counseling and is especially skilled in child and family nutrition and diabetes management. She loves food and is the happiest when she's teaching cooking classes, cooking for her family and friends, and helping others explore new foods. She's also happily married and the mother of 5 kids. Carrie's a registered dietitian and an associate professor in the Department of Nutrition, Dietetics, and Food Sciences, and an extension nutritionist specialist at Utah State University. Her research and extension programming is focused on online nutrition education, access to healthy food, hunger relief, and the intersections of nutrition and mental health. And in her free time, she enjoys cooking, sewing, and being a mom to her 2-year-old. So we have some great presenters lined up for you tonight. And without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Sydney to get us into our first topic.
Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Sydney Williams, like Rebecca said, and I'm a recent graduate, and I'm now in the Public Health Associate Program with the CDC. I'm with the Utah Department of Health on the Healthy Aging Program, and I'm very passionate about personal fitness and nutrition, as it was my minor in college, and I'm excited to present today on movement as medicine. Physical activity is essential to healthy aging. For adults, physical activity is one of the most important things that you can do for your health. Getting older doesn't have to mean abandoning an active lifestyle, but it does mean adjusting your workout routine to your body. Staying physically active can prevent many health problems that are linked to the aging process. It allows you to continue to do your day-to-day activities, improves your quality of life, and empowers you to remain independent. Some physical activity is definitely better than none at all. Almost anyone at any age can do some type of physical activity. You should aim to be as physically active as your abilities and conditions allow. You can still exercise if you have a health condition like heart disease, arthritis, chronic pain, high blood pressure, or diabetes. It is best to talk with your doctor about how your health condition might affect your ability to be active. Additionally, talking to a physical therapist can help you find a fitness plan that suits your body and prevents injuries. Physical activity leads to better health. As we all know, there are many benefits to physical activity. Some of the immediate benefits are better sleep quality, so you will be able to sleep fully through the night. It also reduces your blood pressure. Some of the long-term benefits are that it improves balance and coordination, which is important because it reduces the risk of falls. It reduces risk of unnecessary weight gain, lowers risk of 8 different types of cancers, lowers risk of heart disease and stroke, and type 2 diabetes. So getting started, what we all are here for. The key to beginning a successful and safe physical activity routine is to build slowly from your current fitness level. You want to drink water before, after, and during your workout. About 15.5 cups of fluid a day is recommended for men, and about 11.5 cups for women is a good guideline to follow for daily water consumption. You want to wear appropriate shoes and properly fitting clothing. So the shoe should be specific to athletics with a closed toe, a solid heel, and good support throughout the foot. You want to warm up before and cool down afterwards. Warm-ups and cool downs generally involve doing your activity, but just at a slower pace and a reduced intensity. You want to pay attention to your surroundings when exercising outdoors. For example, you could stumble over something or be caught off guard by other people running or biking. Do not over-exercise. This can definitely cause injury. Going too fast, exercising for too long, or simply doing too much of one type of activity can strain your muscles and lead to an overuse injury. So move more and sit less. If you are 65 years of age or older, have no limiting health conditions, you can follow these recommendations. So it's broken down into 3 options. Option 1 is going to be moderate intensity aerobic activity for 150 minutes every week. So for example, this could be brisk walking for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, along with muscle strengthening activities on 2 or more days a week. Option 2, if you want to have increased intensity, you can do a vigorous intensity aerobic activity for 75 minutes every week. So this could look like jogging or running, along with that muscle strengthening activities on 2 or more days. And lastly, we have option 3. So this is an equivalent mix of moderate and vigorous intensity aerobic activity on 2 or more days per week. So you can have a combination of running and jogging, and of course, along with the muscle strengthening activities. So here's just a general week at a glance. And this is if you chose option 1, the moderate intensity activity and muscle strengthening activity. So you could do a 30-minute brisk walk 5 days a week and weight training 2 days a week. But if you wanted to try something other than walking, you could always ride a bike, go swim at your local pool, use an elliptical trainer or rower. And all of these are great options for lower impact aerobic exercise. The most important thing is to just have fun and get active and get out there. Some examples of muscle strengthening physical activity could be yoga poses, some Tai Chi exercises, even carrying groceries, and calisthenic exercises, which are exercises that only rely on a person's weight with no equipment, which is super easy to do at home, like pull-ups, push-ups, crunches, burpees, etc. For aerobic physical activity, this could be brisk walking, jogging, biking, dancing, swimming, water aerobics, etc. Balance exercises, we have walking, heel walking, toe walking, standing on one leg with your eyes open or closed. Of course, be careful if you don't have the best balance. And lastly, we have flexibility and ROM exercises, which is your range of motion. So for these, you just really want to hit all of the big muscle groups. So get started today. If you have any questions, you can email me at slwilliams@utah.gov. And please visit the livingwell.utah.gov website. This is where you can sign up for many health education classes, such as the Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program, Enhanced Fitness, Living Well with Diabetes, Stepping On, Tai Chi for Arthritis, and Walk with Ease, which is one of our programs that has had great participant feedback. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Melee, who will speak more about Walk with Ease. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Hi, everyone. So my name is Melee Lokatui, and I am excited to talk about a strategy that will get you up and moving, and it's Walk with Ease. So the Arthritis Foundation's Walk with Ease program is an evidence-based lifestyle program that focuses on physical activity and self-management education. It is designed to help you become a knowledgeable, confident arthritis self-manager that is a person who can take action to ease arthritis symptoms and maintain your overall fitness and quality of life. Walk with Ease is a 6-week program where you will meet together with an instructor 3 times a week for a 1-hour session that includes a lesson as well as walking. It is offered as a self-guide course, so it's something that you can do individually or in a community setting. It is recommended you'd obviously choose the format that best suits you. You will be able to learn how to exercise safely and comfortably. It offers a better understanding on the basics of arthritis and the relationship between arthritis, exercise, and pain. In addition to that, you will also be able to learn about proper stretching exercises, motivational strategies, health education for managing arthritis, as well as building a stronger stamina and walking pace. So there are many benefits to the Walk with Ease program. These are just a few. It helps to reduce the pain and discomfort of arthritis. It helps to improve your overall health. You are able to build confidence in your ability to be physically active. You are able to learn to develop and implement a personal walking plan with realistic goals for improvised fitness. It provides strategies to help you keep walking, as well as overcome challenges that can interfere with an exercise program. Overall, it helps you to stick with an exercise routine over the long term. So the question that everyone is probably asking is Walk with Ease for anyone? And the answer is yes. Though the program is designed for adults with arthritis who are inactive or want to maintain an active lifestyle, others can join in, such as those who want to begin or maintain an active lifestyle or need something to get you started on moving more. Walk with Ease is the perfect program. You don't have to be a regular walker or ready to start, because Walk with Ease is aimed at all fitness levels. You get to make your own walking plan, tailor exercises and walking times to your needs, and go at your own pace. It is also a fun community to meet people and have a walking buddy just to help motivate one another. So just as Rebecca mentioned, I work here in Tooele County as a health educator. So recently, Tooele County just finished up 3 Walk with Ease programs. We had 2 that was, one was at the Senior Center in Grantsville and the other in the Senior Center in Tooele, and one here for employees at Tooele County Health Department. It was great to see the different participants join in to learn more about being active and seeing the overall health improving. So here are just a few comments we gathered at the end of the 6-week program from some of our participants. Some had shared, Walk with Ease really helped me get up and active again. It was fun having a group to walk with. It was very helpful resources provided from the Walk with Ease group that has helped me maintain my daily walk and physical exercise. Others also had shared that they highly recommend this program to anyone with or without arthritis. Great resources, atmosphere, and overall program. And a lot of them had also shared that they had lots of fun. It was a great atmosphere. It was great to know that they were not alone during the 6-week program on trying to be more active. So if you are interested in getting started on your own or joining a community, you can visit livingwell.utah.gov to sign up, or we have information here for some of our Walk with Ease providers and the different counties that they're located in. And so you can just take down some of those coordinators' names and emails and contact them, and they will be able to provide more information for you. So let's walk your way to better health. Thank you.
Thank you, Melee. Before we begin the cooking segment, I'd like to remind everyone to continue to submit questions in the Q&A box. I see we've already got a couple in there, so thank you. Sydney, Melee, and April and Carrie will answer some of the most popular questions after the segment. Don't forget to give a thumbs up if you see a question that you like the most. So I know some people worry about being able to cook meals that taste good. Maybe that is too hard or too complicated, but the good news is it doesn't have to be. And April and Carrie from Utah State University Extension are here to show us how to make sheet pan chili lime tilapia and veggies, which sounds delicious. They'll get you started, and we'll share the link to these recipes and others in the chat and in the follow-up email that you'll receive after this event. So I will now turn it over to April and Carrie to take us through. Go ahead. Oh, look at that. Hello.
Hey everyone. We are so excited to be here. We are ready to get started cooking. We've already washed our hands and we've got our oven preheating. And so April's going to start by teaching us how to chop a sweet potato safely.
Yes. So you're going to want to make sure your oven is at 425 degrees. It's a little hot, but necessary to do roasting correctly. Okay. So what we're going to start with is this potato. I've already peeled it. These are the red skinned sweet potatoes that have the orange flesh. So there's other sweet potatoes that have a white flesh, but we've chosen this one today. So if you're wondering the context, I've already peeled it and then I've already taken some off of it. But it's really good to start with a flat bottom. It helps with your knife. So anytime we're dealing with something sharp like this, we want to make sure we have something stable. to work on. So if this was still on the rounded side, it's easy to slip and we could cut our fingers. So I like to cut some of it off or cut it in half so that I have a flat surface to work on. Now, as we're trying to get this ready for roasting, one of the key things with roasting is that we need to have kind of uniform pieces. Now, I'm not a chef, so my pieces aren't going to be beautiful uniform, but I want to try to keep them about the same thickness. So you can see how these are pretty close to the same size. And it really doesn't matter how big the size is as long as they're the same. I would recommend, though, it is a little easier to roast vegetables if they're thinner. So I would keep them right about this 1/2 inch size. Okay, so once we do that, then I'm just gonna flip them on their side and julienne them really. So we're just gonna cut them in strips about the same width as we cut before. Okay, pretty simple. So I'm gonna continue to do this. And we're going to add them to a bowl so that we can toss them with some olive oil. One thing that's needed when you're roasting vegetables is some type of fat to get that heat transfer into the vegetables. So we're going to get these nice and then Carrie's going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil.
Olive oil is a great option for roasting vegetables. Another great option is canola oil. Both of them have a pretty healthy mix of fats. We're just gonna quickly toss them here. The other great thing April did was she used kind of a rocking motion. And when you're working with a big chef's knife like this, you wanna hold it with your thumb and your forefinger on the shaft of the knife and the rest of your fingers around it. That gives you a ton of control because you're holding closer to the tip. And then I don't know if you noticed how April did it, but she had the tip down and she used a rocking motion. So instead of just hacking at it.
Because then that is easy to get your fingers. Notice like as you're hacking. So,
Don't chop your fingers while you're demonstrating how to do safe knife technique. That's not a great call.
And another thing I forgot to mention is if you have the ability to sharpen your knife before you get started, that's a really great idea as well, because a sharp knife is safer than a dull knife. So I made sure that I had this nice and sharp and had it ready to go before starting to chop. Because sweet potatoes are a little bit difficult to chop. So don't get discouraged. You can hear how hard it was sometimes on the cutting board because you have to put a lot of pressure on there. So just be careful with fingers and have a sharp knife. It's helpful.
Yeah. So then I have just laid these out in a single layer on the sheet. If you chop up your sweet potato and it's a large one like we have today, and it's really taking up a lot of space on the sheet pan, I would recommend using 2 sheet pans. We really want these to be spread out so they are not touching each other as much as possible. For our demo today, I'm just gonna put some of them back in the bowl, and you could do that too at home. You wouldn't have to cook the whole potato today. You could do some of it tomorrow, or you could pull out a second sheet pan and use that one for the broccoli. So
the sweet potato will keep after you have oil on it. You can just stick it in a Ziploc bag. It'll keep in the fridge for a couple days. So, hey, you did the work once, you can eat twice.
Yeah. So the other veggie that we're going to do today is broccoli. We are going to roast it directly from frozen. This has become my family's favorite winter vegetable side. You just pull it right out of the freezer. You don't have to defrost it or anything. You're going to want broccoli florets for this one. Pieces are fine, but they're the stem parts just don't roast quite as nicely as the florets do. So we're using another tablespoon of olive oil on these. You could toss them in the same bowl that you just used if you wanted to. I usually just do it on the pan like this. Again, we want to spread them out. We want to make sure that they're not touching. And again, we're going to sprinkle just a little bit of salt on these.
You don't want to go too heavy on the salt because we're going to be using quite a bit of flavor later on, but salt and pepper is always a good enhancement.
Yeah. You could also do this same recipe using fresh broccoli if you have it, but the fresh broccoli is not going to need to cook as long. So you're going to want to dial back the cooking time, maybe put it in at the same time as you put in the fish instead.
Now we use sweet potatoes for this recipe, but one of the greatest things about sheet pan bakes is that you can use whatever you want. It's endless really for vegetables, and roasting is amazing because it brings out the natural sugars in the food and it preserves the nutrients because we're not using water, we're using a high heat. So it's keeping those nutrients in there and it's preserving, and it's also going to make them a really pretty bright color when we roast. But you can use any vegetable. So if you really dislike sweet potatoes, we really hope you'll try them. But if you dislike them, carrots is another great option. Cauliflower, done some great things with that. But sweet potatoes are a really good staple for so many things. You can use them in all kinds of recipes. Really anything that you use a regular potato for, you can use sweet potato for.
Yeah, and a lot of things where you would use a carrot or even a winter squash. Again, you can use sweet potato and kind of mix those things interchangeably. So yeah, the other vegetable that I've used the same from the frozen is Brussels sprouts.
Oh.
They need to go for a little bit longer than the broccoli does, but they turned out really well. Crisp on the outside, creamy on the inside, just the way that you want them.
And we've suggested some really great vegetables that have high nutrient content. So if you remember, we're both dietitians, so we're always looking for nutrients. And sweet potatoes, they are, as far as calories and starch and sugars are concerned, they're about the same as a potato, but they're what we call more nutrient dense because they're way high in vitamin A, anthocyanins, and some antioxidants that help with health and help us rejuvenate and stay well. So that's why another reason we have chosen dark green broccoli and bright orange sweet potatoes. If you have diabetes, there may be a concern about carbohydrate load because we have to look at carbohydrates when we're talking about diabetes. These are still okay. You just have to be able to count how many you're eating. So about 1/3 of a cup is one exchange or 15 grams of carb. So
yeah,
still a good option.
If you're running short on exchanges for the day, swap in the carrots, which count as a non-starchy vegetable, and you're good to go. Yeah, so we talked about how this recipe is pretty low in salt, and the reason why that's okay is because we have so many other seasonings going on there. And so that's a great way to reduce salt in your home cooking, but it's important to be aware that most of the salt in our diet doesn't come from home cooking or what we add at the table. It comes from restaurant food, from pre-prepared food that you get from the deli or from packaged food. And so really, if you're trying to be careful about your sodium recommendation or your sodium intake, which, you know, the evidence is showing more and more that really everyone's health would be better if we ate less salt. And so the best way to do that, the most effective way, is to look at those other sources of salt.
Yeah. And, you know, you have to be careful also when you're using spices. I had a client one time say to me, well, I found this spice, it's awesome. And they were telling me all about it. And I kind of listened for a minute and then I had to burst their bubble because I'm like, can you grab that and look at it? And unfortunately, a lot of spice blends add sodium. So they weren't cutting back on it like they thought. You need to go with pure spices and make sure that they're not a blend that contains sodium, which is salt, if you're really trying to cut back. But we're going to use some great flavors today, and we're going to start with garlic. I thought I would show you how to peel a garlic clove. For some of you, this may be a new idea, a new thinking on how do I do this. And really, if you like to buy the crushed minced garlic in the grocery store, that it's great, that's fine. I don't like it though, because sometimes it smells up my fridge and it's kind of hard to control that garlic smell. So these will stay good for a long time in a dry climate. And so we don't really have to worry about them. You can just buy garlic, have it in your vegetable bowl, and you're good. And you have garlic when you need it.
Yeah, we grow our own garlic, and in the spring it starts to get a little green, but it's still good. Still usable.
Yeah, you can keep it all winter. If you dry it and hang it, it's great. So garlic's awesome. Has some good nutritional properties as well. But if you'll notice, there's a skin on the outside of the garlic that can be really hard to get off. It takes some time when you're trying to peel it like this, and it's really kind of difficult. So what I like to do is I like to just smash it with the side of my knife. Now be careful, keep your hand up and away from the tin of the knife or the edge of the knife. And then once you smash it, it releases that skin so easily. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more time. You just set the garlic on the cutting board, smash, and then you can just pull, and there you go. Garlic is done.
And if it makes you nervous to use the knife, you really can use any kind of hard, flat thing, like a smaller cutting board.
Outside of a bottle, so if I had a glass bottle, a lot of people will just roll it over it and it will take it off.
Yeah. And there's no one right way to do anything. That's a super effective way that works really well. The other thing that I like to do sometimes is I just chop off the root ends and I drop it in some warm water. And the water kind of like seeps under the peel, and it makes it not quite as sticky, and the peel comes off a lot easier that way.
Yeah, probably doesn't stick quite to your hands as much either, does it? So you don't have that lingering garlic smell.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some people that will complain about that. I don't mind it. It reminds me of what I had for dinner or for lunch. So, but some people don't like that smell, so you get that sticky off.
Yeah. Now, tell us about the technique that you're using to dice the garlic.
So what I did first of all was I cut them in half carefully, and it was kind of hard for you to see because I had to have my knife up like that. But then I just cut them into thin strips. Okay, and then I stack them, make a pile of the strips all go in the same way. And then I can do a really quick little chop. Okay, just kind of move my fingers out of the way carefully, and then just chop along. And, you know, I go super fast because I've done this a lot. If you're new at this, take your time. Doesn't matter how fast you chop the garlic, just that it's chopped. Then once I get it chopped the one way, I turn the knife around and I just kind of rock it back and forth. Take a minute to clean the blade carefully and then start again. It depends on how fine you like your garlic chopped. Depends on how long it will take you to do it. I like mine a little more fine because I don't like to get a huge bite of garlic in my recipes. So I just take a minute and mince it really well.
Get roasted for a while here though. So even if you did get a bite, it would be pretty mild.
Yeah, it's a little sweeter because we're going to put it in a roasting environment. And so, yeah, it's a lot better. And then once you get it chopped to this point, it is a little bit sticky, but it's really nice because you can just pick it up with the side of your knife and stick it in a liquid measuring cup for our sauce. So anyway, that is how we do garlic. I'm gonna clean this off. So when we're using a strong flavor like garlic, we usually want to counteract it with some acid. And Carrie's gonna talk to you about how to get our lime juice ready for our sauce.
So we're going to juice this fresh lime. If you do not have fresh limes, maybe they are really expensive because of a crop failure, like it happened a few years ago, or maybe you just haven't been to the grocery store for a while. There is absolutely no reason why you can't use bottled juice in this recipe. Bottled lime juice or lemon juice, the kind that you just get on the shelf, lasts forever in the refrigerator, and it is a savior when you are cooking and you haven't been to the grocery store recently. So before I juice the lime, I really like to give it a nice good roll. I'm really leaning into it, putting my pressure on it, putting my body weight on it to put a lot of pressure on it. And what that is doing is it is starting to break up all those little lime capsules inside of there so that when I squeeze it, I will end up getting more juice out of it. So once I've done that, I am going to just slice it in half. And there's not really one best way to do this. You can definitely use kind of a juicer thing like this. I have this one that I got. It's technically for lemons. That's why it's yellow. So it's a little bit larger than you need for limes, but it works perfectly well. So the trick with a juicer like this is you just put it fruit side down. And then you just want to kind of squeeze it a little bit on its side so that it runs into your cup. So if you're using bottled lime juice, you want to use about 2 tablespoons. That's approximately what you will get from a lime. We might end up with a little bit more here. This was a nice large lime, and that's okay. This is not a finicky recipe. It is okay to have a little bit more lime juice than you expected. All right. So what we're working on here is the sauce that is going to go over the fish. And so we are going to also put in a tablespoon of olive oil. And then we are going to add a tablespoon of honey. And the reason why we're using honey rather than another sweetener is just, it's basically for flavor. Honey is not necessarily healthier for you than table sugar. And if you don't have any honey, feel free to substitute table sugar. Just Google how much table sugar should I substitute for a tablespoon of honey, get the right amount, because honey is sweeter than table sugar.
Yeah, so it'll be less, you'll be using less sugar. So if that's a concern as well, you can do that. It's actually a really small amount of sugar. So
yeah, so
I'm not super concerned about it.
right. So we don't want to have too much sugar in our diets, but this small amount, so 1 tablespoon of honey that's going to be put over 2 fish fillets plus all of that vegetable. It's really a great way to increase our intake of foods that Americans don't eat enough of, like vegetables or fish.
Or fish, yeah.
Yeah. Adding just a little bit of sweetener can really increase our palatability. And for most people, that's a really good trade-off.
Yeah, so you always want to kind of couple sweet and spice and acid, because it really makes those flavors pop. So we're also going to add some chili powder. So we have 2 teaspoons of chili powder and some red pepper flakes. Sorry, I was looking for red pepper flakes. Now, yeah, Carrie, go ahead, because I leave these out because I don't like spice, but Carrie swears it's not too bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's too spicy, but feel free to either increase the amount or decrease the amount to work for your family. You know, you can always add more later, but you can't take it out. So always better to aim on the side of not too much to start.
And then we always have to, I think cumin and lime are like the best companions. So we're going to add about half a teaspoon of cumin to that as well. And then just a titch of salt.
Yeah, so another
really
quarter teaspoon of salt. And that little bit of salt will just make all of the rest of these flavors pop. It will make it taste sweeter. It will make it, you know, it will just really complement the rest of the flavors. So we're just going to give that a quick stir. And then it should be time to take our vegetables out of the roaster and add our fish to it.
So Carrie's going to do that, and I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. These are looking good. So these have been in there for about 10 minutes. At this point, things are getting smaller. They're scooching away from each other. So what we are going to do is we are going to flip these, as well as kind of move them to the side to make room in the middle for our fish. Oh my goodness, I love, April is plugging in our computer so it doesn't die on us and we lose you guys. So I love roasted sweet potato, but there are a lot of great ways that you can enjoy sweet potato. My sister-in-law taught me about making baked sweet potatoes in the microwave. That is great if you're just cooking for 1 or 2 people and you don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. You can do a loaded baked sweet potato. It's a great light dinner. All right, so I've moved those to the side. Then we're taking our frozen tilapia
Out of the package.
out of the package. They usually come individually wrapped like this these days. So these are frozen. We haven't thawed them. This is something that I really like doing because I never remember to get things out of the freezer to thaw ahead of time.
No.
I'm just not that on top of it. So you can either use a pastry brush to brush this on the fish. I am just going to drizzle it over the top. Has a really nice red color to it. And then if you feel like you have more sauce than you need, you can kind of bring it over here on the veggies a little bit, and it'll seep off the fish and get on the veggies a little bit as well too. And so we're going to put that back in to roast for another 20 minutes or so.
Now, the key with roasting is you saw that we're starting to get some color on those veggies, but we want them to have a nice color to them. You don't want them burned, but you want them to have a good crust and a color, because that really is what adds that flavor and that texture that makes roasted vegetables so good.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking about your sweet potato recipes. What about the one that we have on our USU website? We have an extension website with lots of different recipes, and it's a black bean sweet potato quesadilla. That is amazing.
Yeah, we actually have quite a few sweet potato recipes up there because somebody did a sweet potato fact sheet.
Yeah.
And they're all good, but I think that quesadilla is one of my favorites. Whenever you try to add veggies to a quesadilla, you pick it up and all the veggies fall out. And it's just, I don't know, I find it frustrating. And so the secret to this recipe is you mash the sweet potatoes with some seasonings and you spread that on one half of your tortilla, and it sticks to the tortilla, and then you put your beans on that and the beans stick to that, put the cheese on top. It's a really great recipe. Today though, we wanted to demo something for you guys with an animal-based protein, and we chose fish because it is one of the healthiest ones out there that you
it's just got these great fats in it that we just don't get enough of. So typically in the American diet, we don't get enough omega-3 fatty acids, and fish is generally high in that. I know where we live in Utah, it's really difficult to get good fresh fish, really difficult. And so I grew up here, and so I don't eat a whole lot of fish. I try because I know that there's such great health benefits from fish. But if you just can't get your mind around fish, a lot of us can do shellfish a little bit better. So this recipe also works really well with shrimp. And Carrie's going to grab out our finished product to show you while I kind of explain how you do the shrimp. I like to buy pre-cooked frozen shrimp. It's a little easier because it's already cleaned, it's already shelled. You don't have to worry about it. And then I put it in the same sauce, and I actually just let it marinate in that sauce till I'm ready to put it on the sheet pan. And so you can do that if you're really averse to the fish. There's other options.
This is a great beginner fish recipe though. I am not a big fish and seafood fan myself. I don't like shrimp, so I'm out on that one. But this one, you're using a really mild fish that doesn't have a strong fishy flavor. So tilapia is a great kind of entry option. And then the other thing is that there's just so much flavor going on here. The main flavor of the dish is not the fish, it's all the things we added to it. So now this is what you should basically look like when you're done. You should be starting to get a nice brown on some of these veggies. To check to see if the fish is done, I always like to use my thermometer. It's a little bit tricky on fish. I like to use one of these instant read thermometers because they go really quickly. And the trick is that you need to get the whole part of the probe that's smaller into the flesh of the fish without contacting the pan, because the pan is really hot. And so you want to go to the deepest part of the fillet and just stick it in there. And so with fish, we want it to be about 145. This is actually reading, if you can see that small, just a little bit lower than that, because we've had it kind of on the warmer while we were holding the magic of, we're trying to do the magic of a cooking show.
But if you don't have a thermometer, there's a really easy way to tell if fish is done. You just take a fork and you pull the fish like that, and you see how it flaked, how easily it flakes. That tells you that it's cooked.
Coming apart.
This is
delicious.
This is what you want. You want just a flake to come up and off, and you'll see the different layers of the flesh. And that's exactly what you want when the fish is complete. So Carrie's going to put together a beautiful plate for us to look at while we talk about questions.
So this is actually a completely nutritionally complete meal. You know, we've got our carbs, we've got our vegetables, we've got our protein. But you can definitely, if you're the kind of person who likes more carbs with the meal, like my husband does, feel free to throw a roll with this, or some brown rice or quinoa or whatever kind of things like that you like. I like to serve it with just a squeeze of fresh lime, and then you can sprinkle some cilantro on there. It just really rounds out the flavor nicely. But that's completely optional. If you hate cilantro, leave it off. And actually, if you didn't know this, if you hate cilantro, you can substitute parsley for just about every recipe that calls for cilantro. It has a very similar kind of herbaceous flavor, but it doesn't have that molecule that tastes soapy to some people. All right, time to dig in. All right, we are all ready for Q&A session.
So please ask away.
Thank you, Dr. Litchford and Carrie. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And thank you for the questions that are coming in. Now we're going to take a few minutes to focus on a few of the popular ones. If we don't get to a question tonight, the answers will be sent in a follow-up email. So first question we do have is for Dr. Litchford and Carrie, and that would be, can you substitute any other white fish for tilapia?
Yes, definitely. Cod, halibut, those are really good options.
Yeah, if it's a thicker fillet, you might need to increase the cooking time. Tilapia tends to be a really thin fillet. You can kind of see that here. And so you would just want to increase the cooking time, keep an eye on it. Maybe don't roast the vegetables quite as long before you put it in if it's, you know, a beefier fillet.
So like if you were going to use a salmon fillet, you could, the flavor profile is going to need to be a little different, I think, for salmon, just because it's a fattier fish, but you could try it and see what you think.
I think these flavors would be really good with salmon.
Yeah, salmon is a thicker fillet though. So you'll just probably roast the vegetables and the salmon all together because it would take a little longer to cook.
Yeah, you might even want to thaw your salmon before you got started.
It would be good if the salmon was thawed, but yeah, just think about thickness and think about time when you're changing up the fish.
Okay, those are great, really great ideas. Thank you so much. There is another question for both of you. What do you think of intermittent fasting as a way to control type 2 diabetes? Curious to know your answer.
Well, it's a little bit dangerous for people to use intermittent fasting when they are a diabetic. It's really important for diabetics to keep their blood glucose at an even level. And when we go long periods of time without food, we run the risk that we're going to have some pretty big dips in our blood sugar. And diabetics have a harder time regulating that naturally on their own. And so I don't recommend intermittent fasting. I think Carrie's in the same.
Yeah, I think there are some studies out there that have had pretty good results, but at this point, they're still pretty small. And I would just recommend anybody who's interested in doing intermittent fasting, be sure that you talk to your clinical team because you're going to need to modify your medications.
Yeah.
And they need to know about that. And it probably would be really good to get expert advice from a dietitian about how to keep your blood sugar steady over a long period of fasting.
Yeah, and we know like our stomachs clear usually in 4 hours. So we're into a fasting zone about 4 hours after we eat. So we typically recommend that you eat every 4 hours, which is great because you can choose some low calorie options for snacks and you can still keep that blood sugar even, and you don't really need the intermittent fasting at that point.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is going to be for Melee and or Sydney. So either of you, this is a physical activity question. Moving can be painful for this person, and they want to know your suggestions on how to start exercising. So either of you can take this one.
Okay. I can add something onto that. So obviously with the Walk with Ease program, a lot of those individuals who join in are those who experience pain with arthritis. And so first, what we recommend is obviously consult with your healthcare provider to see, you know, what would be the best method in regards to helping to reduce your pain. And obviously, if they think Walk with Ease is perfect for them, then when they come into Walk with Ease, it's a program that's for all fitness levels. We start at like a pace that works comfortably for them. So we're not going to try and make them, over exercise so that they could experience more pain or whatnot. But yeah, I would just recommend even starting small with even like 5 minutes of walking or 10 minutes of walking. And then, if you feel even with that small amount of exercise and you're still experiencing pain, I would just go back to what I had mentioned. I'm recommending consulting with your healthcare provider to see what would be best for you moving forward from there.
Great, thank you. And Sid, did you have anything to add to that?
I think that was an excellent answer, and really just trying to move whenever possible. So that may mean, taking the stairs instead of an escalator, or when you're walking to the airport, go ahead and walk through instead of walking on the moving walkway, or really anything. It could be chores like gardening, housework, just getting active in any way possible.
Okay, great. Yeah, great responses to that. While I have you both on, another question for you. Are there any special considerations or rules for someone who's 80 years old and up for physical activity? So do you have any special things you'd like someone in that age range and above to consider?
I could take this one. So for 80 years old and up, it's really recommended that you engage in about an 80-20 split between moderate aerobic activity and resistance exercise. So moderate aerobic exercise activity can be anything from brisk walking to cycling or even a Zumba class. And for the resistance exercise, it's really important to engage in that because it increases your muscle and core strength and improves your flexibility, which can help protect you against falls, which can be, disabling for older adults.
Great, thank you for that. I do have another physical activity question that just came in. What is a good source of information for resistance band exercising?
I would probably recommend, I know that a lot of my participants who have joined the Walk with Ease have asked questions in regards to good sources that they could turn to just to get simple exercises with using a resistant band. So I know YouTube is a great resource. I mean, it's free. There's lots of different videos on how to use it from a beginner's level to more so an expert level, I guess. But that's a good resource. I also know even speaking to local healthcare providers, a lot of them have different information on, best ways and I guess the right way to use a resistant band, as well as different little exercises that works best with them with their fitness level. So I don't know if Sydney has any other, I guess, good source of information for that, but yeah.
I was also going to suggest YouTube or maybe even Pinterest or anything to just give you some ideas.
Okay, great. Thank you, too. This may be about our last question, and this is for April and Carrie. The question is, how much fiber should I eat and what kind of fiber?
Oh, this is a great question. Most people in the United States don't get enough fiber. The recommendation is actually for adult women to get 25 grams a day and adult men to get 28 grams a day. And if you've ever tried to get that much, it's pretty difficult. You have to really work at it. As far as types of fiber, we are kind of just on the cusp of learning about the different types of fiber. We know enough to know that they probably have different benefits. Probably some of them are better for us than others, but at this point, we don't have enough information to say, you should eat this much of this kind and this much of this kind. I think best practice for most people is to try to eat a variety of fiber-rich foods so that you know that you're getting in a bunch of the different fiber molecules. And for those of you who are like, what is she talking about? I thought fiber was fiber. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
And the best way to get that much fiber is simply to increase your vegetable and fruit intake. Most Americans maybe get 1 serving of fruit and vegetables a day. If they would get closer to the 5 to 6, they'd be so much closer to their fiber recommendations for the day. So
yeah, and swapping in whole grains where it makes sense for you. Right. So the things where I think Cheerios are just as tasty as I don't even know.
Like Fruity Pebbles.
Yes.
So you can find some really good fiber-rich grain sources by looking on the label and just look at the fiber content. If it's more than 3 grams of dietary fiber, you're good. It's a good choice. And that's a great way to get some more fiber through whole grains.
Great, thank you. That was a perfect answer. That is probably the last question we have time for this evening. And thank you, everyone. With that, I will ask Rebecca to rejoin us and close out tonight's event. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for those, all the great presentations we've had tonight. And I know we've mentioned a couple times, but if we didn't get to your question in the Q&A, we'll do a follow-up in our email. So now we'll just wrap up with some next steps that you can take. We hope you've enjoyed tonight's event. You should receive that follow-up email within 2 weeks. It will come from me. So it will say rwilson@comagin.org. If you don't receive it, please check your junk mail or spam folder in case it went there. But the webinar recording of tonight's presentation will be posted on the Comagin Health YouTube channel. We'll include it in the email along with a copy of the slides. Once we end this webinar, a brief survey will also launch on your screen. But before we get to finishing wrapping that up, some ideas of what you can do to take some action. After all the great presentations that you've heard tonight, you can visit the Living Well website to sign up for health education programs. We've showed that grid earlier of Walk with Ease providers in your area. When we send out the slide deck, you'll have access to that. And you can go to the Healthy Environments Active Living Program website as well for information on both prediabetes and diabetes. So watch for that survey link to launch when we end this webinar tonight. We really appreciate your feedback. It really helps us to plan for future events like these. We finally want to thank Sydney, Melee, April, and Carrie for a great presentation and cooking demonstration tonight. We wish everyone a healthy 2022. Thank you for taking the time to join us throughout the series. Have a happy, healthy new year. And thank you and good night, everybody.